So the next sort of 10 to 20 years, it's going to get even worse because if you think of technological waves, technology comes in waves. They don't just go on a straight lines. If you think of the first wave, it was mostly directed at corporates, PCs, enterprise software. It's kind of the world of IBM, Sun Microsystems, those sorts of companies. Now, degree of disruption was actually relatively limited. But then after 2000, we actually got broadband network, we got smartphones, we've got better software. And so that was the beginning of the age of Google and Facebook and Amazon and the rest of it. So suddenly it starts spreading much wider. So editors and a journalist today are not editors and a journalist of 1990s. Fund managers or analysts today are not fund managers or analysts of 1990s. Entertainers today are not the same as entertainers in 1990s. But going forward, the next stage, the third stage, it's all about disintermediation of atoms, not just digits. It's about replacement of factories, atrophy of supply and value chains, robotics, automation, alternative energy, and transportation platforms. It's all about physical matter, which means in the next 10 to 20 years, what you're going to see, plumbers will find that there are self-healing pipes. So you don't need a plumber. You will find we'll be able to print a house for a fraction of the price. We don't need the builders. Now, a lot of people say, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's like a buggy driver become a bus driver. But the problem is with that is twofold. Number one, the speed, as we've just discussed. I agree with McKinsey that it's about 3,000 times the impact of industrial revolution. In other words, waterfront is wider and the speed is faster than it used to be. That's the first problem. The second problem, we don't feel the pain of people who had to go through it. To us, technology is all good, but you were not there when it happened before. You don't know how much people actually suffer through this process. And the third problem is that as you expand it wider and wider, it's not just low skill and middle skills get affected. Eventually, cognitive skills as well, whether you agree or disagree with the timing. But I think the chances are by 2040s, maybe 45, even a PhD in physics will feel it. Certainly, computer programs will feel it. They already do. I think it's going to get even stronger. So to me, you've got all of that accumulating at a faster and faster pace. And the next 10 to 20 years will be worse than the previous 20 years. So what policies should we have in order to keep societies intact? And a lot of people say UBI, which is Universal Basic Income Guarantee, that it's making people lazy. No, it isn't. It's just compensating people for their lower degree of utility or marginal value. Sounds funny to say when we're running out of people right now because we have all sorts of disruptions. But the reality is marginal utility of everybody is declining. So what it does, it compensates you for it while still keeping economies intact. It also enables over time for people to find what they want to do. Maybe you shouldn't be fund manager. Maybe the only reason you're fund manager because there is no way you can think of making money. But maybe you should be a poet. Maybe you should be doing something else. And so the concept of UBI has to be an integral part of that. But there are many other ideas. As I said, from common prosperity, if you want to use Chinese term for it, which is anything from affordable housing, education, healthcare, broadband, etc., to basic R&D, to regulatory changes that would need to occur. And the important thing to me is also Marshall Plan for least developed countries. We tend to assume that private sector will invest. In a lot of those places, it's not about investment. It's about enlightened donation that you're doing. Because if you don't do it, you will find there will be 1 billion people on the move. It will be bigger than Genghis Khan back in the 13th century. If you don't do it, you will find that's going to be a place for another pandemic that potentially could arise.